Greetings. This video is about sustainable agriculture and social independence in a capitalistic society. Whoa, is that a mouthful, huh? Yeah, the word capitalism and the word sustainable is sort of butt heads a bit. It's difficult because we do live in the United States in a capitalistic society. Sometimes I'm not exactly sure whether democracy or capitalism is our form of government, because every time you start to talk about anything, first thing comes up, well, is it good for the economy? All right, well, when we talk about sustainability, we're talking about Native American concepts of 7 generations, so to speak, or the permaculture concept of sustainable agriculture. There's sustainable economics that are green and so on. Unfettered capitalism, or pretty much the capitalism that we currently have, especially under this administration. I'll say no more there. It is totally non-sustainable. Having been a man who's been in business in corporate America for years and worked for other people, managing their affairs, the one thing I could never do, I could never take the year and look at it and say, looks like we're going to make less money this year than we made last year because, and there's probably a whole lot of good reasons why that could be. All right, that's the economy went into recession. It's a simple one right there. Well, can't do it. If I ever turned in a negative projection, a projection that showed we were making less this year than we made last year, they'd throw it back in my face. That's blasphemy. In a capitalistic society, everything is based on growth. Now, the only reason you can do that, because as we all know, endless growth is probably impossible. Even the universe, which is expanding outward, scientists kind of tend to believe probably one of these days it's going to come back inward. So the nature of everything is like this. But capitalism thinks it's like that. At least we pretend it is. And the only reason that it can continue as a system the way we know it is because it has to go through a reset. That's what a depression is. That's what a recession is. These are things that bring it back down to ground and have to start it back all over again. So it appears to us like we have endless growth. We do not, actually. There are things about capitalism that are good. I think there's a lot of good in the concept. I'm not knocking it. If I was to look at a perfect system, it's probably integration of socialistic and capitalistic ideas with democracy overhead so that we can make decisions. If we had a true democracy instead of a representational democracy like the one we have currently, we might see a little more freedom than we have. Currently our representatives are demented? Probably. Whatever, there's something wrong with them, guys. So capitalism does not necessarily include sustainability. Sustainability is an ethical judgment on economy or on agriculture or on anything, however you apply it. It's an ethical idea. Capitalism is not. Capitalism is raw, unfettered Darwinism, so to speak. It's the survival of the fittest. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and make it happen, buddy. Now, I believe in that. Okay, I believe in it. I've done it my entire life. I'm a good capitalist. At heart, I tend to be more of a socialist. I believe in a country this wealthy, we should be spreading the wealth across the widest group of individuals and allowing as many people as possible to benefit from the system that we live in. Anything else is just plain greed, as far as I'm concerned, and selfishness. And we see a lot of it here. It's become the standard, especially on the right. You look at the right wing talks about, nasty liberals. Oh, God, it's like there's something wrong with the idea that we would help carry the weaker segments of our society. To me, socialism allows for more balanced society, a society that is sustainable. Because when people don't get what they want, you end up with riots in the ghettos, you end up with the Black Panthers, you end up with a whole lot of problems. Okay, when people don't think they're getting what they need. And so we balance a society and we create sustainability by mixing capitalism and socialism together. Taking them apart is probably not our best interests. That only works for the ultra-rich. And those are the guys in charge at the moment. So look out for that. But, as I said, sustainability is an ethical determination. We say that we are going to try to leave something for the future and try to keep systems flowing in a constant way for the best interests of not only ourselves, but all of those who may come after us. Well, that's a pretty logical viewpoint, you know. Just because my life ends doesn't mean the world ended. And so I am not the center of the universe, except to my own. In my own universe, Bill's the center of it. But as far as the rest of you are concerned, I'm almost irrelevant. And so, when it comes to setting yourself up for social independence within a capitalistic society, which is a lot of the people I'm seeing that come here to Pune, this is exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to set up sustainable food forests. They're trying to somewhat disconnect themselves from the economy, maybe in the society even a bit at large. You know, it's a homesteading thing going on all over again here. It reminds me a little bit of the Back to the Land movement of the 60s, which is, you know, really kind of where I got my start and all that. It is different, at least I think it's different from that movement, in that the movement of Back to the Land in the 1960s was people looking for social revolution and positive changes to be able to make this world a better place to live in. Whether it did or it didn't, all of this is still with us. Whether you think the 60s died or not, take a look. I mean, we have so many things that have changed in our society since that time. We got their start right there, so it hasn't gone away. But today, the movement that I see Back to the Land looks to me like it's more inspired by fear. I see people worried that the economy is going to collapse. There's going to be a worldwide collapse. And, you know, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, I don't know. But it's mostly based on the idea that things are going to go wrong. It's, you know, some of it is survivalist and such. And, well, me, I want to see a better world. That's my whole life purpose. That's the only reason I'm here. I really is, you know, other than just to be alive, you know, make babies and whatever, I think the stuff everybody else does, right? But if I have a purpose in life, my purpose here is to try to leave this planet in better shape than I found it. I can't do that by thinking the world's going to end tomorrow. And besides, if I was to go try to hide off in the woods someplace in a remote location, nobody'd know I was there. That doesn't work for me, because I need to have people know I'm here. I need to have people know who I am and what I do. Otherwise, I don't have an economy. My concept on economic independence within a capitalistic society is that I have to set myself up with my own individual economy being akin to a small nation. I live within the United States, and I have all the advantages of the United States, our laws, our government, our money, our flow of money, and so on. I have all those advantages, our educational systems and so on. Protection from our military, you know, so this is a great place to be. But I don't necessarily believe in the system as we see it, okay? I'm not totally in agreement with it. Also, I'm not a wage slave, okay? To me, you got a choice. You can make money or you can have a job. And if you have a job, well, you make some money, but you probably don't make very much. On the other hand, if what you're focusing on is economy, not work, you end up making money. I mean, the rich make money by investing in other people's ideas, in real estate, in businesses, and so on. In general, the rich do not make money like the middle class by digging holes in the ground, or nailing boards and so forth. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a carpenter. There's nothing wrong with being a ditch digger. Hey, everybody's got to do something, and all services are required in our world today. And so there's a place for everyone. But if you're really trying to look towards doing what it is that you want to do in this economy today, having sustainability, having some security, you have to set up your own economy. And so I manage my funds as if I was a small country. I do not look outwards towards others, like the government, towards industry in particular. Okay, so many Americans, they bemoan the fact that, oh God, we lost so many of these Rust Belt blue-collar jobs, with corporate America. It all went to China and so on. Stop the crying, because it'll come back. And when it comes back, it'll come back for two reasons. One, price of diesel fuel for moving that stuff, and the cost of making it wherever it's being made is going to go up, making it less likely that that's a profitable thing to do. And when it moves back home, it'll move back home because artificial intelligence robots will be doing most of the work that you guys used to do, especially the factory stuff. And if you want a job like the one your dad used to have in Detroit, well, you're probably going to have to end up learning how to program artificial intelligence. You're going to have to learn how to service a robot, blah, 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 blah. In other words, you're going to be working on the things that are working on the products. So you're not going to be working on the products much anymore. There still will be things like, carpentry and so on. There'll be a lot of things. The farm, where you're going to be directly involved. Robots will even take part of the big farming operations, but on the small ones, that's not going to happen. So, quit complaining about the jobs that went to China. It's history. It's over. It's done. There's no point in even whining about it. It's what we call spilled milk, and the future will be a different place. So that's an important way to look at it. In the midst of this, I see the word hobby as an evil word. I get it a lot. People say, oh, well, geez, you're so lucky. You get to do your hobbies and make a living off of it. And I said, no, I do not have any hobbies. Hobby is a bourgeois term. It's a term that will keep you chained to the corporate god. Okay. In other words, hobby exists only because you went to work for Ford. You worked, 40 hours a week on a union job. You got paid time off, Saturdays and Sundays off work, and 4 to 6 weeks a year for vacation, etc., etc. And in that time off from your job, you're performing a hobby. Some of us play music, some of us paint, some of us play tennis. I don't know what it is. Maybe just jog. But we have our hobbies, supposedly. But these are things that keep us chained into poverty, or at least into having to rely on corporate industry to be able to sustain ourselves. A hobby is a frivolous and almost silly situation when you look at the fact that if you wish to be your own economy, you really need to be looking at everything you do and decide, how does this contribute to my individual wealth? How does this keep me moving and flowing, paying the bills, and having ownership of my cars and my property or whatever it is. And basically, if in my life, if it does not somehow contribute to my economy, I dump it. It's not worth my time. It doesn't mean that everything I do is, hard work, business. In other words, there's a camera sitting in front of me here right now. I enjoy video work. I think it's a lot of fun. For some people, this might be a hobby. For me, it's not a hobby. It's part of what I declare to the IRS. Camera's a tax write-off. I get money directly for ads on this, and I have to declare that, via 1099s with the IRS. And so I also make quite a bit indirectly from this. So many of my contacts, so many things that I sell, all happen because of this camera here. The rest of you out there in the world know who it is that Bill Merrill might be because of that camera. So this camera is a tool in my business. It is not a hobby. When you hear me playing guitar as a lead into this, that is not a hobby either, because for years I made most of my living being a musician. Today, the only way I make money off of that music is pretty much just as a soundtrack on these videos, and that soundtrack does get paid by Google for ad revenue, and so therefore I have to declare to the IRS the money that I make with my guitar and my guitar equipment, and so they're all write-offs. It's business. Okay. I converted my landscaping horticultural consulting business in California to farming when I moved here to Hawaii. Well, the farmer, he gets a lot of tax breaks. I wouldn't want to say a farmer gets away with murder with the IRS, but the farmer has a lot of advantages. My driveway is part of my farm. Money I put into building the driveway, I get to write it off. Even when I paint the house, it's a farmhouse. It's part of the place. Got to write it off, and so on. So, essentially, everything that I do is part of business, and everything that I do somehow or another generates some sort of a wealth stream that comes to me. Because most of these things are things that I would have been doing ordinarily anyway for nothing, to quote Margaret Mead, it does look like I'm having a heck of a good time here, and I am. I'm doing things that I just would have done every day when I got out of bed ordinarily, you know, twiddling my thumbs. I think I'll go out and work with the plants, you know. I think I'll sit down and play the guitar. Hey, let's shoot a video, you know. It's all business. It all amounts to money. It's all part of one package, and I have figured out how to fit them all together so they are legally business. And so basically my life is my business, is my economy. And so this is why I say that no man is an island, even though some of us live on one, but I am an individual small country with inside a big country. My economy exists essentially supported by, but somewhat independent. So let's talk about capitalism, because you're living in it. If you're here in the United States or in a number of some European countries and so on, you're living in capitalistic societies, and I'm not going to browbeat capitalism. I've done a lot of talks for people in schools and places about permaculture and about growing and about agriculture and so on. And I often find that a lot of, say, permaculture students and horticultural programs, a lot of these guys and girls, they're all they're gung-ho on socialism, you know, and on charitable organizations and nonprofits and all this kind of stuff, because they're trying to disconnect themselves from the economy of the country to some extent, is one of the reasons they do it. They don't want to be worried by greed. They don't want to be worried about money and so on. Unfortunately, the more you try to get away from money in this society, the more you're going to find it's going to chase you and you're going to worry about it. It was the reason that I turned everything that I did into a business. That way the money came at me just spontaneously, with no real concerns over how and why it was happening. And so my suggestion, despite the fact a lot of folks just don't want to take this one from me, is if you live in a capitalistic society, you ain't going to beat them. Join them. You try to beat them, most of the time you end up on a park bench. You know, it's not sustainable. You want a sustainable economy in a capitalistic society, you got to go capitalist. You don't have to go full tilt, unfettered. You got ethics, you got morals, you got things you do that you feel are right and good, and any great idea can make money. That's a very important point in the society. If the idea doesn't make money, we have to look and say, well, am I handling it wrong, or is the idea itself just not capable of doing that? But a really, really good idea in this society, applied properly, it makes money. It makes lots of money. You see money flowing all the time. Well, if you got the money to cover not only your basic needs, Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs here, then if you have a little bit more that allows you to expand, develop your ideas, invest, and maybe just piss some money away by going traveling to New Zealand or China or someplace interesting. I mean, we need recreation too. And so some of the income we make, I believe, should be applied to just recreating and doing nothing valuable in particular. But a whole lot of it flows back into the business. A major portion of it, though, probably 2/3, has to go into a pool where the money is both liquid and relatively safe, but has at least some potential for growth. Bank accounts these days, not so good, really, not so good anymore. Very little interest paid back. A few of the online banks pay a fair interest. You know, me, I usually keep my online banking tied into my my stock market accounts. So my brokerages and my banks are intertwined. And when I have money that I'm not using, generally I take about 30% of my income, 33 and a third percent of my income, 1/3, and I take that and I place it into the market. The rest of it I usually tend to keep in another pool where it's a bit safer, but I have to take on some risk. Most of my ancestors lived to be nearly 100 or over 100 years. I suspect that I'm feeling pretty good at 66. I'll probably join them one of these days, and so I anticipate having to be around here and needing money to buy underwear for a long time yet. I'm nowhere near the end. Do I sound like it? No, not. I'm still a big butthead. And so, you know, if I don't put money to growth, and if I don't put money into investment of ideas that will expand, I'll probably end up, you know, some of them poor people living on nothing but Social Security out there. I'm not saying that government services aren't valuable. Man, I made my way from running nurseries in California for other people to my own business of horticultural consulting and landscape design, the Green Garden Service business. I made that transition by utilizing unemployment compensation that came to me after the stores closed down that I was running. And man, if it hadn't been for that unemployment compensation, it would have been really hard for me to set up the business. But I took the money that came at me, and rather than sitting on my rear end drinking beer watching a football game, I reinvested it into my own business, which created independence from the economy for me. Nobody can ever lay me off again. I'm layoff proof. I'm fireproof, so to speak. You can't can me. You know, I can lose a customer, I guess, but there's always another one out there, and my general activity is to be kind, friendly, and generous with the people that help support me, my customers, because they keep coming back and they spread the word. You know, it costs you a lot of money to get rid of one person that you ticked off, or keeping people happy is really cheap. It really is. And so, yes, sirree, Bob. And so, again, more creating my own economy within this capitalistic society. As I said, I cannot be laid off anymore. And the sort of thing that I'm doing really doesn't seem to have any economic or social end. We eat, we plant stuff. Again, I'm located in a place where growth is going on, and so people need these plants, and its growth is happening from a certain type of individual that's really very much into planting food forests and becoming sustainable. So I'm in the middle of something here that is almost perfectly adapted for who and what I am. I really didn't plan that. Not really. There are certain things about all this that are synchronistic, and I do definitely recommend, when you're attempting to try to create a sustainable economy for yourself with agricultural products, you follow those synchronicities, because stuff just pops up and you go, whoa, geez, that's amazing. How did those two things come together? Put them together. Let it roll. I don't know why the universe is the way it is. Sometimes I believe in fate and destiny, you know, and that there's certain places, certain people should be doing certain things, and if you can find those places, generally your life rolls. I kind of believe that that's the way mine's been. So some people call it luck. You know, I don't believe in luck at all. If there is luck, it's a commodity that I save for evading gas trucks that are out of control on the freeway. I don't waste it in Vegas shooting crap, you know. Anyway, there's a little bit about creating your own sustainable economic independence with agricultural products in a capitalistic society. You can do it, folks, and it's wonderful. Hang loose. Aloha.